Good news and bad news for the day. Good news, both trucks are back in the yard and back to 100%. This one really didn't have much of any issue. It was a broken flex pipe. That was an easy fix. That was all done deal. This is the one that was having all the emissions issues in McCauley's Truck Center. Got it all figured out, and what they figured out was it wasn't actually having any emissions issues. There was a bad sensor. The NOx sensor was bad. They changed that, and then all the other readings it was getting, that it was like needing regens and needing to go into limp mode and all the issues it was having. Sensors work off of voltage. Well, actually, they read resistance to voltage, and that's how they think they know what's going on with stuff. This truck's voltage regulator, or whatever that thing is, I don't know, thing that regulates voltage across all stuff, was acting up and giving false voltage readings to everything. So all the sensors in that whole emission system, the SCR box and all that stuff, were getting false readings because the voltage was fluctuating up and down, making the computer of the truck think that it was having a whole bunch of emissions problems, which is why it kept constantly going into check engine lights and limp modes and requiring regens when it actually didn't need a regen. And when I was actually over at the auction with it and looking at the computer, I showed you that it was showing zero soot load in the DPF, which means there's nothing that needs to be burned out. So why is it needing to regen and burn it out? And then it was also showing less than half a PSI of exhaust pressure, meaning the DPF is not plugged. So why is it needing to burn it out? So all that makes total sense, that there was actually nothing wrong with the emission system. It was just the sensors were getting the incorrect voltage fed to them, which made them read voltage incorrectly and tell the truck there was problems that there actually wasn't. So this one now, I started pressure washing for about 5 minutes last night, and then I stopped and do other things. But we've got to pressure wash this whole chassis really good, since the Zacklift is off of it at the moment. Then we're going to grease the bottom side of the Zacklift and pressure wash all of that, and then get this hooked back up, because this has a long distance heavy tow to do in just a couple days. Now, I told you there was good news and there was bad news. The good news is all the trucks are good to go. The bad news is that now the trailer is not so good to go. Trailer is a brake issue. I believe the spring on the inside that holds the brake shoes onto the pins broke, and the brake shoes are trying to roll out of the drum in there. Is there a way we can get to see it? Whatever. I'll put a picture right here that I took the other day, but I think it's because the spring broke and popped out. We're gonna just pull them off and fix it, but then we found out that this is inboard drums. I mean, you can't just pull the drum off. You got to pull the whole axle. Everything's got to come apart. It's all got to come off. Hub, everything, to get to the drum to replace one spring and then reassemble this whole hub. So this is the weekend right now. First thing Monday morning, this is going to go back to McCauley's, where the trucks just were, and we're going to replace all of that, maybe replace the brakes too, and just put new ones in since it's apart, and see what we're going to do with that. Now, as you can see, I have the tires strapped down on the deck because we're going to haul this into the shop without tires on it. The good news there is this trailer has a lift axle on the back. The bad news is the valve that runs the lift axle is stuck and not working correctly. So that's a project we got to do today. The previous owners always ran this trailer as a 4-axle, so they never used this lift axle. So I'm not surprised that the valve is kind of stuck and not working right. It is actually up here. It is this one right here. So I got to pull this valve out, spray a whole bunch of penetrating oil in there, shoot some air through it back and forth, and see if I can get it to free up and work correctly and lift that axle. And then we can just tow it into the shop just like that. And if that doesn't work, I'll just chain the axle up to these D-rings right here, run some chains through and hold it up with chains. It'll be fine. So that is a bit of an issue, but the good news is with that is that this trailer, today's Saturday, Monday this trailer was supposed to leave to go down to California, and it had to be this rail trailer that went because it was for rail load, but that got pushed back about a week, which is good because of this issue, and that gives me some time to fix that. I already test fit these onto the front, made sure I had all the right pins and everything to hold this whole little link system in place. I'm going to get these bolted back on up there. I took them off for hauling some other stuff. I'm gonna bolt them back on so it makes that nice big transition up onto the top deck back there, or the back deck. This still needs to get the decals put on it, but that's a later project. This needs to get all pressure washed and hooked back up to that. This doesn't need anything right now, but a couple quick things. A lot of people have suggested sandblasting this. This is all fiberglass, which technically, yes, you can. Well, it's more like soda blast. Yes, it can be done, but it's not as simple as just taking the sandblaster and sandblasting it. You'll go right through the fiberglass too. So there's ways it can be done, but it's not that simple. A lot of other people suggested a pressure washer. Yes, pressure washer absolutely gets it off. That's how I got that off right there. That's how I got these pieces right here off, side of the door right here. But what that does is it leaves confetti vinyl chunks all over my yard, everywhere, and I don't want to do that. And this is all after I have cleaned this up and cleaned this up and cleaned this up. 10 minutes with the pressure washer made my yard an absolute disaster. I'm not going to do that. So I would rather look at it like this than have this all across my yard. So like I said previously, that is just a huge time-consuming project, and I have so many far more important things to do other than that. That just can wait. And then we also have to get the top put back on the Jeep here, because you know it's like turning into wintertime really quick. But every single one of these screws in the little whatever these are called on the end that go right here, the threaded portion in the back side of them has stripped out and is just spinning inside of there. So I need to drill out each one of these, then drill out the rivets that hold these in place, take these out, put new ones in, screw them back in place, and then we can bolt the top on, put the sides and doors back on, and the Jeep will be ready for the nice cold weather. So as you could see, we have got a lot of work to do today, and unfortunately none of it's the kind of work that we actually get paid for. Also, speaking of paid and money, I will be explaining how $65,000 is just missing in thin air, and how hopefully we should be getting it into my account again here soon. So hopefully. But for now, we're going to take a couple pictures of this and how all these air lines are laid out, so we know how to put them back together. And then we're going to start. What is this even mounted to? Oh, I got to get a screwdriver. I'm going to start pulling this valve out of here. So how a lift axle works is, obviously we have air suspension with airbags. And the air goes and feeds all of the airbags an equal amount of pressure, so that all the axles have an equal amount of pressure on them. Well, when there's a lift axle involved, there's a separate lift bag. I can already see gunk in there. That might be our problem. There's a separate lift bag, and when you want to lift the axle, obviously well, that's not good. Come on. Obviously the suspension bags that hold the weight going down the road need to be deflated, and the lift bag needs to be inflated, and then the suspension bags will collapse and allow the lift bag to inflate and lift the axle up. And this valve is supposed to take the air away from the suspension bags and redirect it to the lift bag. And then there's an exhaust port right here that exhausts the air out of the suspension bags so that the lift bag can push against them and raise the axle. What's happening here is it is pressurizing the lift bag, but it's not taking the pressure away from the suspension bags. And also is the exhaust port is sticking open and just dumping air. So the two sets of bags are both pressurized and fighting against each other and dumping air out of here all at the same time. So not super ideal. All right. Here, get a screwdriver. I'll be right back. Here's what we need. Also, do you guys like this truck with the Zacklift on the back and want to see it in person? Because if you do, I've mentioned a few times now that I got to get this thing cleaned up and show ready. And that is because it's going to a truck show, towing show actually. The biggest tow show in the world, I believe, the Baltimore Towman's Exposition. And that truck with the Zacklift on the back will be at that show in the Zacklift booth. And if you'd like to come check it out, meet me, check out more of Zacklift stuff and what they got, head to Baltimore and I'll see you there. Oh my gosh, this screw's like 5 inches long. Oh, there's a nut on the back. That doesn't work. Dang it. Okay, and then pull this last line off. Okay, here's our valve. Okay, we've got air coming all the way back off the truck. Truck's running to supply it. And do a blowgun here. I think what I'm going to do first is I'm going to blow into those lines that is disconnected and see if I can raise the axle just to make sure the plumbing is all working correctly for the lift bag to actually raise the axle. The only potential issue with that is I don't know which line is actually connected to the lift axle. Well, that's just coming out of there. That ain't it. Definitely not it. Is it you? Oh, that's rear suspension bag. Woo, that's it. Check this out. Okay, so the plumbing back to the lift bag and the bag itself and the bag functions work. We just got to get the valve to send the air to the right spot. Woo! Okay, so I just went and unplugged this air line from the glad hand and plugged the glad hand back into the trailer. So now the trailer's airing up. This is the axle that has the leveling valve on it that controls the ride height of the trailer. And of course we have it up on blocks because we were working on this one last night. So the trailer should raise to ride height off of this axle. That one will be overextended. Of course, this one will too. You can see the bag's actually just started inflating right now. So the valve opened to inflate the suspension. These two have no load on them, of course, so they're gonna go the easiest, and then this one will be the last to lift. So I do have enough valves and fittings here. I'm pretty sure that I could bypass that whole block that I just was messing with and put like a ball valve in there that shuts off the air to the suspension bags, and another one that just dumps the air out, and then another one that supplies air to the lift bag in between. And I just have to open that hatch and go in there and flip the valves the right combination, and it would lift that axle. But I'd prefer if the valve that's supposed to do it does it correctly, so I can just flip the switch right here and it does it like it's supposed to. Okay, lift axle up. I could see that bag inflating. The suspension's gonna drop because now it's being fought with this one right here, and it should be technically taking the air away from this one, meaning those two take a bigger load, so it'll drop a little and then it'll equalize back out and lift. But this one should lift all the way up, and it's not. So this bag right now has pressure in it, but so do those, and they shouldn't. And as you can probably hear, that exhaust port right there is just dumping air full time. And it should dump the pressure out of the bags and then stop. But it's sticking open where it's just dumping. Okay, so I just let this sit here for like 5 minutes straight, thinking maybe it's just taking time to dump the air out of those bags. They still have all the air pressure in them. The lift bag still has all the pressure in it, and that exhaust valve is still just sitting there dumping air. So we might need to get creative. I mean, or I can just order a new valve and then just chain this axle up to get it to the shop on Monday and call it good. I wonder if I dump all the air out, set it down, then flip my lift axle, and then reinflate. Oh, if everyone's saying just pull that hub off of there and just get in there and fix the brakes yourself. What, you can't do that? Yes, I absolutely am capable of doing that. I 100% could. And if this trailer really did have to leave out of town Monday morning, I would. Because in all reality, or I should say in theory, every part I could possibly need to fix that should be sitting right here. So I have all the parts. I technically could do that if I had to, but when your buddy's got a really nice shop to work in and all the tools and equipment, everything to make it super easy and not in the gravel, yeah, that's where I'm gonna go. And for everyone saying I should have just thrown an extra exhaust clamp on that flex pipe and gone to work and forgot about that till later. If I had one, I would have. Like I said, in this case, all the parts are sitting right there that I need. I did not have an extra exhaust clamp laying around. And if you notice, that video was at night, so you know, parts stores are closed. Part store open at 8 o'clock. I could have gone and got an exhaust clamp. But guess what? Cody's shop opened at 8 o'clock too, so I just go get the whole thing fixed. And no, I could not have gone to a parts store at 8 o'clock in the morning and then time traveled back to install it and then still be on the job for the load up the machine an hour away from here by 6 a.m. like they needed me to do. So that's why that did not work out and I couldn't do that job. I was supposed to be an hour away from here loading up at 6 a.m. It just wasn't gonna work out. It's almost out of air. And no, I don't have extra flex pipe and exhaust clamp laying around like people say I should. And the reason I don't is that I've been driving trucks for 22 years. I bought my first truck 14 years ago. And in all of that time of driving and owning and running trucks, I have never had a piece of flex pipe fail and I've never had an exhaust clamp fail. So that's not something I keep on hand. Okay. So look at this. It is inflating the lift bag and raising the axle just like it should. See if it goes all the way up. See, as that bag pushes out, it's hinged right there, which lifts this up, and that chain pulls the axle up. And it should go all the way to the stops right there. Okay, so the lift axle is up and pressurized and exactly how it should be. So now if we raise our suspension, these bags should not inflate. Only those should. These are inflating. And since there's two big bags here with a super good amount of leverage on them and one tiny bag there with no leverage on it, these are just overpowering it and dropping the axle back down. And that exhaust valve up there is just sitting there exhausting. It's not good. Okay, I'm going to stop you. Go back down. This should collapse back in. I wonder, this is not like correct permanent fix, but it could make it work for now. And what I really need, I need to buy a whole new valve block and put in there. But if I just put a shutoff valve on the feed line to these two airbags, like a normal ball valve, I should be able to dump the suspension, which will dump all the air out of these lift bags. Reach in there and close that. Actually, might even be able to do it through the back right here. Close that one valve so that no air pressure can go back to these bags. Then flip my lift axle to pressurize the lift bag, and then flip my suspension to raise my suspension again. And it should refill those two axles suspension bags, but these ones will be shut off with that ball valve. So I might be able to get away with doing this with just one single ball valve in the system. You see, I just dumped the suspension again, and the lift axle lifted right back up like it should. So for some reason, it's all f***ed up. Okay, through some deductive reasoning, I have found that this should be the line that feeds these two suspension bags. I have also went over to the Zacklift and I found a DOT approved push lock 3/8 ball valve. So if I put this right here, I should be able to dump all the suspension, shut this valve, flip my lift axle and reinflate the suspension. These bags will not reinflate, but the lift bag will and the other two axles will, and it'll work as it should if that valve were to be working correctly. So we are going to hope our guess is right. Ooh, that's not good. Stay in there. And then we're gonna pop that on there. Pop that on there. Shut the valve. See if this works. Suspension up. Inflating. Inflating. Then I need to roll this trailer forward and get it off these blocks so that we're at ground level. What the? How is that happening? You've got to be kidding me. That's pressure. Where is it coming from? Did I put this on the wrong line? No, look it. This line is the one going to the suspension bag. I am so confused right now. Where are they getting that air from? See, now that's exhausting back out. Look at it. Everything else is exhausting and dumping, except these. When I open this, it exhausts. How did they get air? I don't know what's exactly happening. I'm gonna screw with this. I'll be right back. I figured it out. That axle is screwing us up. Even though it's not connected to the trailer, let me explain. So, I'm like, hey, that line goes into the one and only airbag port, and then it tees, of course, and comes over into the other airbag port. What I didn't notice is that there's a T right here going into this line and coming out to here, that comes out here, that plugs into this, that runs the air suspension on the fourth axle. So this other line must be coming off of the bags up there, because when all this is tied together and all the axles are down, there's lines going through it's called a common feed line, so that all the airbags are getting the exact same amount of air pressure. So the weight on each axle is exactly the same. So that must be another line tying them all together. So even though I shut off the line from that valve block back, oh hey, guess what? That's why the lift axle valve is not working. So I screwed up. It makes so much sense now. I didn't need to put the valve here on the line feeding the bags from the lift axle control block. I needed to put the valve here on the line coming from the common feed line that equalizes out all the axles. This is making so much freaking sense. So the reason the exhaust is constantly exhausting is because it's trying to exhaust the air out of the bags like it should be. So the valve's been working correctly the entire time. But this other line here that's trying to equalize everything keeps feeding air in from the other bags that are being fed correctly like they're supposed to from the valve. So it's making a loop back through here. So I need to take that valve off of there and just put a coupler in there, because now I cut that line when I didn't need to, and put that valve right here instead, which will kill the equalizer that equalizes the fourth axle and supplies it. And then this is dead because it's a coupler right here. And then everything should work correctly. I don't even need to do any funky stuff. I just need to put that here. And then when the fourth axle is hooked up, I can open it back up and it'll all work as a 4-axle system correctly. That's it. Okay, I gotta go get another coupler now. Okay, so what I've done is I just put a coupler here and splice that line back together. And then here, I cut this line and put the valve here where it's coming in to equalize everything. So now I should be able to just shut this valve and then come over here and raise my suspension. These should raise. This now should not have any possible way to inflate unless that valve is not working correctly and is feeding through the line, the supply line, like I thought it was doing in the first place. Look at that. That's raising. This is not. Meaning the valve worked correctly the whole entire time. And it was purely this extra line that was put in here to equalize everything when the fourth axle's hooked up, was just back feeding the bags. And the great thing about that is I don't even have to open any of these hatches. One, it is really nice this trailer has all these hatches all the way down it, but this is open right here. Like factory, I can just reach in here and open that valve if I want to hook the fourth axle back up and run the fourth axle suspension. So look at that, we're raised up and the lift axle still up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull the trailer forward off of these blocks and get them out of there, and put this on the ground at ground level and make sure this is all working. So all of this and disassembling that whole valve and all of that, when all I had to do was cut that line and put a valve in it. The razor knife was the only tool I needed. That's funny. Okay, the trailer's all equalized out now. I'm back to ride height because obviously that front axle was extended way down, had a bunch more air in the bags. I pulled out the blocks, that compressed, it had to dump out the extra air. So while that whole process was happening, I went and remounted that block, that valve block back inside there. So that's all mounted back up. And now here we sit with the axle lifted off the ground. We're riding on the front too, just like we should be. Meaning to get this thing to the shop, I don't have to get all fancy and chain the axle up and do all that. I just had to install a single valve right here. So actually, I shouldn't count my chickens before they hatch here. Let's flip the axle, make sure this still works now. It should now dump the air out of the lift bag and reinflate the suspension bag, which it sounds like it's doing. I hear air being dumped and these bags are inflating. Now yes, there's no tires right here, but on this side there is. And check that out. Back to a 3-axle. And then we come back over and say, I want to lift my axle. Flip. We're going to go to this side because it has the tire where we can see. But it's dumping the air out of the suspension bags and inflating the lift bag. And look at that. The axle's going up. Nice. All right, well, after about an hour and a half of screwing around with a bunch of diagnosing and figuring and trying and messing with stuff to figure out that all I had to do was shut off the common supply line, we've got the suspension working correctly. That is the fun of like an older used trailer. This trailer, it doesn't look like it, but this trailer is a 1997, so that is however many math years old. 28. It's obviously been modified and repaired and things changed and made to work for whoever is using it at the time. So you're gonna have to really go through and like kind of follow the plumbing and figure it out as you go to do anything like this when you have an issue. which we did, and found out just how small of an issue it was. In all reality, I probably just made a phone call and said like, hey Carl, what's up? And he'd have been like, hey dummy, shut off the common supply line, and we'd have been done. But we figured it out either way, and it's so simple. All I got to do when I hook the 4th axle up is just reach right here and go open, and we're back to working correctly as a 4-axle. So I'm going to put all this away, and then it's on to the next project. I just noticed there's a spike missing on my truck. Luckily, that is something I do keep spares of. Flex pipe and exhaust clamps and things to keep the truck running? No. But decorative spikes, we got those. You know, it's all about the important things. There, done. And yes, these spikes are just hollow pieces of plastic that don't pop on anymore. What the heck? There we go. That's it. So if you're one of the people who get super offended and angered by these spikes and how dangerous they are, you don't know what you're talking about. But one other funny thing that we're talking about, the flex pipe and exhaust clamps on that truck, someone told me I should have just borrowed the flex pipe or exhaust clamp off of this truck and threw it on that one to make that one run, since this one was down anyway. A couple things about that. One, this truck was at the shop that I had to go to the next morning to just go get the new stuff all put on anyway. And number two, do you notice something missing on this truck as to why robbing the flex pipe and exhaust clamp for the stacks wouldn't have worked? It doesn't have any. This truck has what you call a weed burner exhaust. You see it just comes out of the one box right there, goes back and just dumps down onto the ground under the truck. And just puts all the heat right there. So in the wintertime when we're on snow and ice and all that, when I'm doing recoveries and winch outs, if I'm sitting there for any length of time, this whole area under the truck would just be melted, melt all the snow and ice away. And if the truck goes into a regen while I'm doing it, it'll be like bare, dry ground and then snow and ice everywhere else. And I also believe that's why this truck has such a problem with air leaks. It is a constant issue on this truck. I have been fighting air leaks on this thing since I bought it. And while it was at McCauley's, I told them, fix the air leaks. It's getting ridiculous. They had to change 14 fittings that were leaky plastic push lock fittings. I've changed God knows how many on this truck since I've owned it. But I believe a reason for that is that it's just so hot under this truck back here because all that 1,000-degree air is coming out underneath and just cooking under the truck. You know, it gets dumped down, heat rises, so it's just cooking all of that stuff. It can't be good for the wiring. It's clearly not good for the airlines and fittings. Stacks, I think, should be mandatory on these new emissions trucks, but this one has a weed burner. Because if you look, there's the exhaust and there's the deflector that kicks it down. You see it's all ridged to like fan it out. And then behind that is where all the air tanks are, and air lines and air dryer and valves and fittings and all this stuff. And you can see new parts, all the way through this whole thing is a whole bunch of brand new air fittings because the ones were leaking so bad. And I think it is because it's just so hot under here all the time. That's, I think, kind of an engineering fail on these newer trucks. They shouldn't have weed burners. It's a problem. Now on this truck right here, this panel gets unscrewed and this like air panel right here comes off, and that's where the stacks would go. And then it'd be like that one right there. That would actually be very ideal to swap that over and put stacks on this instead. I've got the space for it to come right out and go up. It'd look cooler too. And this right here, the reason this is called the one box, this is your DPF filter, SCR catalyst, DEF fluid, injection, all that stuff all in one box. So Detroit calls it the one box. And you can see this right here is brand new. This whole box is newer. I'm not 100% sure exactly what mileage it happened at, but sooner or later on these trucks, you have to replace that whole system, and it's like 15 to 20 grand for that box to replace it. This one's had it replaced. Like I said, I'm not sure on the mileage, but this truck has 409,000 miles on it, and it has a new box, newer. This truck has a brand new one box on it. Well, not brand new. It's got 20,000 miles on this one box. It was replaced right at 500,000 miles, and now it has 518,000 on it. So it has not 20,000, it has 18,000 miles on a brand new one box. Now, clearly that means this truck's one box lasted at least 100,000 miles longer. Actually, far more than that, because I bought this truck with like 380 or 390,000 miles on it. So that one went out in probably the mid to high 300s. So this one probably lasted 150,000 miles more than that one. And that makes sense when you look at what the trucks are and what they're used for. This is a heavy haul truck, and that entire emission system works on heat. So in both towing and in heavy haul, us as truck owners, drivers, people who spec them out, want those fuel tanks up here and everything else behind the fuel tanks. So those fuel tanks are obviously really heavy. So we want them right behind the front end, because our biggest challenge is transferring enough weight far enough forward to fully load this front axle to the maximum allowed weight on our permits, which in this case in Oregon is 21,500 pounds, in California 22,000 pounds. So we want that up here on both sides to help get weight down on that front axle. And then in the towing side of things, the same thing. We want those fuel tanks up here to help hold as much weight on that front axle when we put a big lever on the back and put the front end of a truck on it, because a tow truck works like a teeter totter. If you take the front axle of a truck and push down on a lever back there, it's obviously trying to lift up on the front here. So the heavier we can make this front end as the truck sits, the more steer axle weight we have to counteract that teeter totter effect. So I want those tanks up here on both sides. Now, if you look back at my old rollback, that NRC International truck, it was a pre-emissions truck, so it didn't have any of this, and both fuel tanks were up under the doors to take advantage of that front axle, putting a bunch of weight on it. One, to help counteract when you're towing, and two, on that truck, since it also hauled stuff on the bed, to get that weight away from those drive axles, and up here, so you had more capacity to load on the drive axles. But like I said, this whole system runs on heat. Heat out of the engine is what burns everything through the catalyst, burns out the filters, creates the chemical reaction for the DEF fluid, which everyone talks about DEF. Oh, it's just fertilizer. It's fine. It's nothing dangerous. Yes, but when it's sprayed across the catalyst that's inside of here, a chemical reaction takes place that turns it from simple nitrogen and urea into ammonia gas. And that ammonia gas, which obviously very dangerous to breathe, then reacts with the nitric oxide that the diesel engine produces, and those two chemicals cancel each other out to make a net zero, if everything works perfect in a perfect world. And then net zero comes out of the exhaust. Now tell me this, there's the government is telling us these trucks aren't clean enough anymore, we got to go to a whole nother stage. But they also tell us that this system creates cleaner air coming out of the exhaust than what's being sucked into the engine through the air filter. So if these trucks, according to the government, are literally cleaning the air as they drive around, why are we now having to go to a whole nother system because these aren't good enough? I don't know. Either way, this system works on heat. It takes heat to make all that work. So there's the turbo of the truck right there. It comes right to here and goes straight into the one box. And this has to be in the very front so that you get that direct heat and you're not losing heat through the pipe as it goes back. So I would love for this to go back here and for this to go up there. But then you'd have that long pipe coming back and you'd be losing heat that whole way, and this would not work as efficiently, giving you a lot more emissions problems. Now, I myself don't know why you couldn't just insulate that pipe with exhaust wrap tape and then it would keep the heat in it and probably work even better, but supposedly you can't. Anyway, that's all to say that the reason this truck's emission system lasted so much longer than that truck's before it had to be replaced is it's a heavy haul truck. When this one goes out to work, it gets a big old load put on it, and I don't use this truck for its full capabilities anymore. I had the 9 axles did, but this truck gets a couple 100,000 pounds put behind it, and you're driving this thing just matted to the floor, using every bit of power it has. The truck's running hot, just like the emission system wants. It keeps that system running very efficiently and cleaned out very well. Heavy haul trucks usually don't have, when used correctly as heavy haul trucks, usually don't have that many problems with the emission system, because the truck is always running all out, full heat, giving it everything it wants to run efficiently. This truck, however, especially as a wrecker, I am surprised I don't actually have more problems with the emission system on this truck than what I do, because you got to think about how this one gets used, especially in the wintertime. I very rarely tow anything in the wintertime. It's all recoveries. So this truck, while it's freezing cold outside, gets driven empty to a place, usually an hour or 2 or 3 away from here. Then it sits and idles running the PTO to run the hydraulics for the wrecker body for anywhere from a half hour to, on big recoveries, hours and hours on end. We did one over the summer where 14 hours the truck was sitting there idling. That's just how it had to be, because it's the situation you're in. And then when it's done idling, which is horrible for these things, for the emission system, not for the truck really, it drives home empty, however long that may be. It never got a load put on it. It never heated up. And everyone asks, like, why? Because I have to do parked regens. Why isn't it doing a rolling regen? Well, they won't do a rolling regen unless the coolant temperature and engine temperature, oil temperature, whatever, is over 200 degrees. And you have to be doing over 50 miles an hour for like 45 minutes or something like that. This truck never, hardly ever ends up in that situation, so it will not do rolling regens, because it's just not how I use it. I don't take this thing and do long hauls up and down the road. It's around here locally. It's on and off the throttle. It's not, I don't think we have much of anywhere around here where I can set the cruise control at 55, 60 for 45 minutes with a load on it pulling the whole way. That's not a thing, especially as a wrecker in this area. And then even using as a wrecker, you can't use the button on the dash to send it into parked regens, because the truck is never warm enough to need it or to let it do it. So you have to plug in the computer and force regen the thing. So like I said, I'm surprised I don't have more emissions problems with this truck with how it gets used, which in all reality is why as a wrecker it really should be a pre-emissions truck, because wreckers simply don't operate the emission systems correctly. But before I had this truck, it pulled a flatbed, hauling long, oversized loads, over length loads, which is why the chassis is so long. But even that, they were not heavy loads, they were just long loads. And it was all flat land in Central California Valley where it's flat, nothing. So it never really pulled hard, as compared to like that one. So it doesn't surprise me that that one box had to get replaced so much sooner than the red one. Now that long chassis is also why this truck fits the Zacklift and this one doesn't. One, you need the room for the Zacklift to physically fit, which that truck doesn't have. It physically will not fit on the back of that truck. And two, you need all that extra leverage up here so the front end can still have weight on it, because, teeter totter. If the front axle of one truck is sitting here, the pivot point is right there between those two axles. Obviously, if the distance from here to the front end of that truck and from here to the front end of this truck were the same, it would balance like that. So the farther out you get it, the longer you get it, the easier it is for the front end of this truck to stay down and keep weight on it when you're towing another one behind. Whereas this one is so much shorter, it doesn't have, like I said, the Zacklift will not physically fit in that space. And two, even if it did, this truck would lose front axle weight really quick because it doesn't have a long enough lever to counteract the lever off the back of it. So for everyone who asks me why I don't run the Zacklift on this truck, that is why. Trust me, I would absolutely love to run the Zacklift on this truck instead of the other one. This truck, bigger engine, better transmission, heavier front axle, heavier rear axles, double frame. Literally everything about this truck, except the length, makes it far, far better for the Zacklift than that truck. Now, yes, you could stretch the truck, and trust me, I've considered that a lot, but an issue with stretching this truck that makes it way more expensive and way harder is, as you can see, it's double framed all the way through front to back. By the way, look how clean the frame is on this truck. It's like zero, the thing is so clean. Yeah, this truck is double framed all the way through, and cutting and stretching a double frame truck, huge project over what would be on a single. Plus this one has all the ramps on the back, which I don't really need the ramps, so technically those could go, which they would have to for the Zacklift to fit up in there. I mean, it might be able to cut that out and make it work, but most likely they'd have to go. So yeah, if there was a shop out there that wanted to take on stretching that thing and it was reasonable to do, I would do it in a heartbeat, and that'd be my new Zacklift truck, and then there'd be zero consideration of getting rid of this thing, because then it would be very, very, very useful for me all the time with the Zacklift on it. And then I'd most likely take this one and shorten it way up and just have it as the shorter wheelbase fifth wheel tractor for pulling the other trailers around. See, the problem is the trucks are opposite of what I kind of wish they were. But this one here, see, it's a single frame truck. So this one is super easy to cut, stretch, add a splice in, and sleeve it. No problem at all. It also makes it very easy to shorten right back up. That one, whole nother ball game when it comes to that, but I would love to do it if I could. And yes, I know, Casey, what happened to your $65,000? I'd love to know. Huh. Got it. So let me tell you the story of my missing $65,000. One, that's a lot of money, especially a lot of money to just be gone. Oh, I'm gonna have to drill that more with a smaller bit. So obviously we're a business. We do work for other companies, and then we invoice those companies and they pay us. And that's how this business works. Ooh, got a little wild on the trigger, got my finger. But either way, there it is. We sent an invoice to a customer of ours for work we did. And it was a large invoice, $65,000. And, you know, they're gonna pay us for that work. All good, no problem, just fine. Let's go over here. None of that is the issue. Turn you a little bit. Good customer, always paid in the past. Never had a problem with the bill. No problems there. So I send the invoice. This is actually $64,950, just shy of 65. Just so you don't accuse me of exaggerating here. Now, we use QuickBooks, and I send the invoice through QuickBooks. That customer, come on. That customer also uses QuickBooks. Well, QuickBooks has the option to pay through QuickBooks. QuickBooks payments, so great, so easy. You're on QuickBooks, you're on QuickBooks, we're QuickBooks, we'll just connect you to, the invoice came from us, we'll do the payment too, no problem, great, yeah, easy. So that's what they did. We've done QuickBooks payments and been paid by it in the past, no issues. Takes 2 days usually and the money's in your account, it's fine. No problem at all. So, you know, there's many ways you get paid, obviously. They could come hand you cash, write a check, wire transfer, direct bank transfer, like ACH deposits, like all kinds of stuff, or QuickBooks payments. I don't know where the new pieces are. I have to find them. Either way, QuickBooks payments. So that's what they pay through, right? Cool. So obviously, it's going to take a little bit of time for their bank to send out the money, day or two, whatever. It goes to QuickBooks payments, and then it gets put in our bank. Normally our bank, if the money gets sent to the bank in the morning, by that afternoon it's clear and free. It's pending for just a little bit of time. So like I said, usually 2 days after a payment gets sent, it's free and clear in our bank, completed and done. Great. They sent the payment the 28th of November. It is now the 4th of October. I'm gonna go look for these brackets. Found them. I don't know where I was, but they sent the money through QuickBooks payments. So QuickBooks notifies me in my program. How in the heck? I guess that goes. Gee, those are totally different size. Not gonna fit. Look at this. Oh, I'm an idiot. This one's bigger. That must be a smaller one that goes here. Like I said, I'm an idiot. Okay. So I go this way. Need to tap it down in there. And then make sure it's nice and straight. Yeah, and then we screw it in, I guess. Yeah, so QuickBooks notifies me when a customer views an invoice I send them. So if I were to send you an invoice right now and you open it and look at it, it notifies me that you did so. So the great thing about that is when a customer is late on a payment and they're like, oh, I didn't see that. You call them or email them or whatever, like, hey, pay this. Like, oh, sorry, I didn't see that. It's like, actually, yes, you did. You saw it on October 3rd at 7:02 a.m. And then you looked at it again at 3:40 p.m. And then you looked at it again the following morning at 9 a.m. So like you could see all of that when they look at that invoice. So like they can't kind of get out of that. It also notifies you when they pay or make the payment, if the payment's through anything like that, or through the online link. Because also they can pay by credit card or debit card through a payment link I send in the invoice. And for most towing customers, that's what they do. Like I'll tow something somewhere. It's like, all right, here's the payment link. They go pay it through their debit card through that system. And then it immediately tells me they paid, everything's done, and then I can release the vehicle. That's what I had to do with like that box truck I towed to the auction and stuff like that. But obviously on an almost $65,000 invoice, they're not gonna pay the credit card. So that's why they use the payments feature to pay there. So I got the notification that they paid. And like, okay, in a couple days, 2-3 days at most, I'm gonna see that money in my account, be happy. And 2 days later, it goes in my QuickBooks system from payment pending to payment completed. Cool, great, got the money. Go to my bank account, no money. It's not in the account, it's not in the pending payments, it's in none of that. I had to go find a screw for that. Perfect. So I wait another day, wait another 2, still no money. Got a hold of customer like, you actually paid, right? Yeah, we paid. And here's all our proof. And that hurt, but so then yeah, they sent me the proof. They paid, all legit, no problem there. Go, you fool. Wonder if I gotta drill that out first. That actually might make a lot more sense. I should do that. They paid, legit, no problem. All fine. Showed me in their bank, accounts. Here's where the money left our account. It's no longer pending. It's a completed payment. Everything. So, yeah, that's all fine. No problem on the customer end. And so I wait another day. Nothing. No money to be found. And let me try to be smart about this and drill it out first, then put the screw in, because they're too cheap to put the hole in ahead of time. So yeah, no money, but QuickBooks says it's completed and done. Then their bank also says it's completed and done. It's not pending in any of that, but it sure as shit isn't in my account. So this one. So I called QuickBooks yesterday. I called them like, hey, what's going on? According to you guys, this customer paid. According to that customer, they paid. And according to their own bank, they paid. So can you see anything that I don't? And they said, oh yeah, we see right here, they paid. And goes through QuickBooks, so the money actually goes to QuickBooks and then to me. And they said, oh yeah, they paid, but for some reason, that's how you're supposed to do it. So I'm going to put that drill bit back in and go put the other 2 in and drill them, and then switch back to this and do all that at once. So yeah, they paid, and then, but for some unknown reason, paying the money out to you got delayed. And I'm not sure why. I see it all, but it got delayed. So it's gonna be held until a batch of payments goes out on the 6th. Then we'll release it, and then it'll take your bank probably a couple days processing time for you to see it in your bank. And then I say like, no, release my money right now. Like, we can't. It's batched, scheduled to go out with a batch on the 6th. Like I said, today is the 4th. They paid on the 28th. So that's quite a bit of time. So I'm not happy with QuickBooks. I tell them they need to give me my money because they have it and they need to give it to me. And of course, this lady's just some low-level customer service person who doesn't have the authority to do anything about that. So she can't. So I say, you get me to a supervisor. And she says, oh, we don't have any right now. I'm like, BS, give me a supervisor. So why won't you go? Something's up. So I argue with her. Finally, she transfers me to a supervisor. Oh, imagine that, there is one. So what he tells me, oh, the bit of that rivet's still stuck in there, jamming me up. There we go. He tells me first, let's be clear. First, he tells me, oh yeah, it was delayed. Don't know why. We'll send it on the 6th. No, you're not. That's how it's supposed to work. You'll send it right now. Like, you guys have had my money for way too long. Give me my money. And he says, no, we're gonna keep it. Then at some point the story switched to, we can't give you your money. We don't even have it yet. Like, what do you mean you don't have it? He goes, we don't have it. I'm like, you already told, like the other lady already told me that you have it. You already told me that you have it and that you guys are just delayed paying it out and put it out into a much later batch. Because they, like, I guess they pay in batches a whole bunch at a time, which I don't care about. Bitch better have my money. So he says now, like, no, we don't have it. I'm like, then who has my money? And he goes, oh, you should talk to your bank. I'm like, fun fact, ding dong, we already did. It's clearly that didn't work out so hot as the other one. Said it's clearly not in my bank account, or I wouldn't be calling you. It's not pending in my account. Like, I already talked to my bank. He goes, oh, well, and you should talk to the customer's bank. I'm like, they did that already too. We already went through all that because they want to know where their money went. Because if they sent $65,000, why did that work so good and this one didn't? Either way, if they sent $65,000 out and it didn't go where it was supposed to go, you best believe they're all over their bank trying to figure it out. So this one should go here. Or does it go here? And that goes out there. Yeah. I said, so their bank doesn't have the money either. Their bank confirms that it's not pending. It's not waiting to be, oh, now I need that. Damn it. It's not waiting to be, you know, what? These don't have the little lip on the inside that fills that space. Interesting. I had to go find this screw. But either way, or the driver, their bank says the transfer of the money out of their bank is completed, done, gone and over with. So if it went to QuickBooks and QuickBooks doesn't have it and this bank doesn't have it, Where's my money? Be right back. And I'm back with tools. Now the customer is also very concerned by this point because they sent $65,000 out and don't know what the hell happened to it. And if it was their bank who screwed up, and I'm probably putting these on backwards, it might be, we'll see. If it was their bank that screwed up and sent it to the wrong place, what the hell's going on? Because obviously, you know, they sent money somewhere, and banks screw up sometimes, it happens. And obviously, like, the money's gone and clear, the bank has gotten rid of it, that needs to get knocked in. I've been it when I was perfect. Oh yeah, there it is. So their bank money's gone. Well, if it didn't go to QuickBooks, who did they send it to? So the customer, my customer, is now very concerned about where their $65,000 in, because if their bank sent it to the wrong place, this is on them, and they still owe me $65,000, which is concerning for all involved, especially me because I don't have my $65,000. So, you on still? Yeah, you are. Okay. Yeah, the camera went black. It was just a screen on a timeout screensaver thing. So, we're doing a bunch of back and forth, all of us. Both companies involved here, me and the customer company, with our banks. Our banks all confirm. Theirs sent the money. It is done and gone. No pending, no nothing. Gone and delivered in full. My bank confirms. Never freaking heard of it. It's not pending. We don't see it as incoming. This money doesn't exist as far as we are concerned, which makes me concerned. So QuickBooks clearly has the money, especially since they told me already from 2 different people that they have the money and they're just delaying the payment so that they can hold the money. What is going on here? Shit. Something is up, and I don't know what. But if I can force this, it's going. So I tell QuickBooks, give me my money. And they say, no, we don't have it, but don't worry, it's scheduled to be paid out on the 6th. To which I reply, if you don't have it, how in the hell did you schedule it to be paid out? How do you know you can pay it on the 6th if you claim you don't have this money and you've never seen it? Well, that's just when it'll go out. So I argued with them and argued, and it went nowhere, and I wasn't gaining anything. And eventually they told me, end of story, it's just not going out. That's that. Get over it. So I am now missing $65,000 that I should have had by now. My customer, until that money gets put in my account, they are very concerned that they paid out this money and it didn't go where they thought it was going to. So that's not good. And QuickBooks is sticking to their thing of it'll get paid, released on the 6th, and then a couple days bank processing time. So yeah, it'd probably be my bank's pretty fast in that. So if it gets to my bank some point on the 6th, it'll be in my account free and clear, most likely on the 7th, possibly the 8th. But either way, that's like 9-10 days for $65,000 to be missing from both me and the customer. So long story short, our new policy is we don't allow QuickBooks payments anymore. If I ever send you an invoice, you're not allowed to pay through QuickBooks. You can hand me a check, you can do whatever you want, but you sure aren't paying through QuickBooks. Why is that locked? Shit. I see. I screwed up. I gotta take this one back off. I'll show you what I did in a minute. That was dumb. Okay, come hither. All right, free and clear, right? Why is it not moving? Well, there's another bar right here. Why won't it move? This is the third brake light for the Jeep. The bar's hooked underneath it. That's why it wouldn't go forward far enough. The bar was stuck in there. All right, now we can put that back and the top should fold up. I gotta put the window surrounds on it first though. Okay, so yeah, that's my rant about QuickBooks payments and how I'm missing a lot of money right now because of it. Now, is it breaking us, making us go broke right now? No, we're okay for the moment. If we never get paid for that, that'll be a problem. But as of now, we're okay. It'll be fine. The only big bummer to that is, speaking of emissions trucks, and me saying I want a pre-emissions truck, especially for the wrecker, unless I could stretch that one. By the way, if anyone knows of a frame shop who would stretch that double frame truck, you let me know, and I'll be in contact with them, and I'm getting a phone call. Cascade Heavy Rescue.
Is this Cade?
Okay, back to, like, we're okay for the moment on missing that money, but speaking of wanting a pre-emissions truck and wanting a cab over, two things I really want. I have found my dream Freightliner Argosy. I guess I did this right. It's a 1999 Freightliner Argosy. Now, I have had a Freightliner Argosy in the past. Absolutely love those trucks. The most comfortable to drive, comfortable going down the road. Great, great trucks. Love it. I had a heavy spec, heavy haul Freightliner Argosy. Love the thing. Unfortunately, that was the truck that burned up in a fire and I lost while we were moving here to Oregon. My plan was to bring my Freightliner Argosy here to Oregon and run it here in Oregon with a sliding axle trailer, and starting out with a true hitch until I went to a detachable tow unit, kind of like this Zacklift I have here. So trust me, I would love, especially now I have the Zacklift and a sliding axle, to put the band back together, and a true hitch, and get a Freightliner Argosy back in the mix. Would love it. Found one. Amazing shape. Great truck. Most everything I want as far as specs, other than its short wheelbase, which two options are: it's single frame, and it's the 3/8 single frame, the thicker one, so I could have it stretched to run the Zacklift, or I could leave it short to pull both my sliding axle and the rail trailer and be under 65 feet and legally able to go anywhere. Here's what I'd prefer. If I could do anything, stretch that truck, the red one, make it the Zacklift truck. Be amazing. Then get that Freightliner Argosy, which I believe is short enough to be under 65 feet with my sliding axle and the rail trailer. And that be my fifth wheel tractor, under 65 feet, legally allowed to go anywhere. Amazing truck. Going on long distance stuff with the trailers, smooth riding, comfortable, sleeper, everything, like everything I want. And if I could do anything, it would be legal to delete that truck. Now, a lot of people said, why don't you just delete them? The president's doing this, EPA's doing that, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, every single emissions regulation that has been in effect and law is still in effect and law. Every single carb regulation and carb law is still 100% in effect. There's been a lot of talk in the government and the EPA and the CARB about changing a bunch of rules around and rolling back and get rid of stuff. As of now, absolutely nothing has changed, and it's nothing more than talk. So until that changes, I'm not deleting these trucks. As long as it's illegal to delete these trucks, I won't delete these trucks. If it becomes legal, oh, you bet your ass these things are getting deleted in a heartbeat. But as of now, it is illegal. Every single regulation from the EPA and CARB is all 100% still in effect. That's just how it is. So these are door surrounds. They surround the door, in case you didn't figure that out. And then there's these screws up here that screw through the roll bar and clamp them in place. There we go. And there's a pin right here that pins down through a hole in the top of the body, and that's what mounts them. Okay, so where I was going with that whole Freightliner Argosy thing, like I said, I found one. If I'm gonna buy one, that is the specs I want. And everybody says, like, you said the red one was your exact truck you wanted, and this, yeah, I want a lot of things, so get used to that. But guess how much that Argosy is? $65,000. No, $60,000. So if this invoice got paid, I could go buy that truck and have enough money to fly out and drive it all the way home off this one invoice. See why I'm angry? Okay. We've got to lock you down. Why aren't you going? It's not the newest top in the world, so it's a little stiff. Lock down. Lock down. We got it. Now we got to flip these pieces under here. Good, good. Same thing on the other side that you can't see because I'm over here and you're not. Ow! Good, good. Door off. And then door off. And then door on. Uh-oh. And door on. And then the windows, I have a feeling the windows are going to be a pain, especially since it's so cold outside today. If this was like a 100-degree day, sure, no problem. But today, problem. Okay, hold on. A little silicone spray. Oh, what a difference. The back window is going to suck, I know that. But they always do. Okay, so this gets tucked in here. This goes back under. You open the door. The door surround has a lip in it right here that this plastic piece on the window gets kind of shoved into, and hopefully your fingers survive it. Velcro under there. There's another plastic piece here that goes under the lip of the tub. That's why these Jeep tubs have this lip right here. Velcro. Done. Hook up your door limit strap so that it can't open all the way anymore, and done. And now for the biggest pain in a Jeep soft top, the back window. Where is the zipper? Oh, it's right down here where it needs to start out. Cool. So, back window time. You'll see a lot of Jeeps running around without the back window in them. There's a reason why. It's not because they just feel like not having the back window in. It's because it's a pain in the butt. But yeah, I would love to be flying out right now. Go pick up that super cool Argosy and road trip it back across, well, half the country. And have a super cool new pre-emissions cab over Argosy. It's part of the fleet. And For those that say I should buy a Scania, you can't. They're not allowed in the United States. Yes, there's the old antique or classic vehicle ones, whatever, that if you import from Canada and it's so many years old, you can get away with. Yeah, but I'm not doing all that. I want a modern truck. I don't want, well, I'd love to have a cool old school truck, but not for like that. So no, Scanias are not an option. You cannot get them in the United States. Can't. But Argosies are just like Scanias, but American trucks. And you can get them in, well, used in the United States. But you want to talk about interior comforts and everything, like a modern truck sleeper, not like an old school cab over. Which, by the way, I started out with an old Pete 352 cab over. That's what I started my company with. And I have a job coming up on Tuesday where I will get to tell the story of that, because it fits in perfectly to how I came about that truck and getting to own and run it. So we'll save that for Tuesday. Well, my Tuesday. I don't know when the hell you'll see it. But no, Scanias aren't an option. Same thing, people say buy an Edison truck. Again, would love to. I think those guys, they are on to the right setup there. That's the way to go. But in case you haven't noticed, they don't sell trucks yet. They're still in prototype phase. Ooh, come on. But yeah, people who say Scania because it's like a modern truck but a cab over, clearly have never seen an Argosy. I'm back. I literally turned off the camera and came over. On the very next pull, it just went right down. Okay, I finished now. Alright, top is back on the little Jeep. If we get a little warmer day or driving it, the heater on, like everything kind of warms up. All the wrinkles will come out of it and it'll straighten back out and be good to go. Obviously I have to walk back and get the camera. But I have a question for you guys. If I take that Jeep and I put these tracks that match it so nice on it, because these tracks are the right bolt pattern to fit on this Jeep, and made this a little track Jeep, put the Hydro Assist steer on it so it'd be good to go, and then did a giveaway, would you guys be interested in entering that giveaway? And it'd be like the whole, like, you have to like buy, I've never done it this way before, I've always kind of not really liked it, but financially it's the only way that makes sense, is to do like the, you know, you buy a shirt or merchandise and that enters you to win the Jeep. And of course, obviously there's a whole legal rules of the no purchase necessary way of doing it and all that stuff to make it legit and legal. But if I went through the whole process of doing a track Jeep giveaway, would you guys be interested? Yeah, let me know what you think. We do a rollover bus giveaway next. Actually, we're gonna start using that for more practice stuff again soon. Well, in like a couple months, because I'll have different stuff to practice with. What? Did I say that out loud? Now I really want to take this truck down to the scales with this trailer and weigh this setup, but I probably shouldn't, you know, with missing tires and wheels off the back, because it's like an hour round trip to the nearest scale to do that. So maybe Monday, once I leave the shop after this is done, then I'll go do that. Because if this is light enough, then we can take this truck on the California trip. But if it's gonna be too close on weights, we'll have to switch to that truck and take it, like I say, because it's like, I don't know, 4,000 pounds lighter or so, and that'll just give me more wiggle room on weight. Unless I had, you know, like a nice Freightliner Argosy that weighs like 9,000 pounds less than that one to hook to that trailer, and then I wouldn't have to worry about it. Plus then I'd be under 65 feet and wouldn't have to go the stupid route to where I gotta go either. I go wherever I want. And if I had $65,000 in my bank account, I'd be able to go get that. So that sucks. Okay. I feel like I should get back to pressure washing this thing, and then I can hook it back up to this and be ready to go do Zacklift stuff again. So as you can see, we're in the middle of pressure washing the white truck here. Nothing fancy, not getting too deep into it, because here at the end of the month, this truck is going over to the valley and getting fully polished out and detailed and show ready for the Baltimore Tow Show. If it was me taking a truck to a show for me, zero chance I'd wash it. It'd go just dirty as shit because that's how it normally is. This truck works on washboard dirt Forest Service roads all summer and snowy mountain passes all winter, so it's a dirty truck. It's a work truck, not a show truck. But since it's going for Zacklift and representing Zacklift in their booth and their product, I'm gonna go have it all polished out and detailed so it looks good for them. But while the hood is up and it's all out here, I figured a good time to show you some of the other stuff we did to it while I was at McCauley's. Obviously we had to get it like running, but once they got that handled, did a full service, oil change, fluids, air filters, and then basically like a full DOT inspection, that when we're driving across the country we just know everything is good to go. It got new tie rod ends on the drag link here. The other ones are all good. What I told them was if it's even slightly hinting at being questionable or needing to be replaced anytime in the somewhat near future, go ahead and change it now. That way we're solid. This hub seal was just ever so slightly leaking, not to like out onto the wheel, just it was just wet, getting wet around here. So we replaced that whole thing, and then since the one on the other side obviously has just as many miles as the one on that side, we replaced that one too. But it was actually really good overall. It didn't need too much of anything other than, you know, what ended up just being weird electrical issues. Hub seals, 2 tie rod ends, 14 million air fittings that were leaking. All the U-joints were good, suspension bushing's good, airbag's good because we replaced these shortly after I bought the truck. Everything else on it checked out, no problem at all. So should be good for a trip across the country and back, hopefully. So I'm gonna finish pressure washing this thing, then I'm gonna pressure wash that, and then I'm gonna put the two back together. And just like that, we are back to a heavy wrecker. That is everything that's involved in turning your fifth wheel truck back into a 30-ton heavy wrecker. It's really very, very simple. There's just a couple things that are a little bit of a pain on my particular truck, just because the way we laid my particular truck out, or it ended up on my truck. One, the hydraulic manifold on my truck is tucked way up here under this headboard. And the reason for that is we didn't know what we were going to do right here. We didn't know if we were going to put a headboard or what. And I think that's my cat. We have our cat. She's an inside cat, goes outside in the day, stuff, everything. But we found out there's an identical twin stray cat that runs around here. We've mixed the two up before. Pretty sure that's mine. Either way, this wasn't here. We weren't sure what we were going to do here. It was long before this got put on, so we didn't know where this was going to quite land, because it's different on every truck and how far you can suck it up into the back end there. So we weren't quite sure. So what I kind of had Tim do when he built this is like just tuck it as far up into the back of the cabin out of the way as we can get, and then we know it'll clear anything else we want to do in here. And then we got this on. We see where it ends. I ended up putting this on, which kind of buried that underneath there. And now I got to crawl in. So it's a bit of a pain to do that. Not a huge deal though. What we could probably do now is take that and move it out to like right here on the outside of the headboard, and then you just stand right here and just couple and uncouple, and the lines would go up, and it would be super, super easy. Tim, if you happen to be bored sometime, just saying, it'd be pretty cool, you know, if that was over there. You know, now that you made that fancy system in there, rip it out and change it, why not? But that's just one thing that slows it down a little bit. The only other thing is, this is on my particular truck, the rear frame clamps. Those chains go down under and hook the bottom side of the frame rail and then come up. And when you tighten this bolt here, it sucks this piece up, which clamps it down. And on my particular truck, you can see it lined up perfectly with the shock tower. So I drop the chains, actually no, I bring the chains up through the shock towers. And so fishing the chains through the center of the shock towers is a bit of a pain that slows it down. You can see then it comes under, hooks the frame on each side in front of the airbags, goes up and under. And when you tighten those, it clamps these saddles here down onto the frame and locks the back end of this thing down to your frame. But yeah, you see it just goes down through the shock tower. If my rear suspension was different or this landed differently on the truck, like I said, the goal is to have this as far forward as possible, but different rear ends, different trucks, different suspension, different frame types will determine how far up you can get this thing to go before you start running into clearance issues with your down tube or your underreach in there. And mine just happened to line up with those shock towers. I've kind of thought about maybe welding a hook or something out here that you would just bring the chain down, hook it, and be done, but you also don't really need those. I've run without them a ton. I don't quite know Zacklift's stance on that, but in all reality, for towing, normal winch out, stuff like that, these I don't really think are 100% necessary. If you're trying to dig these way down in and push down super hard, which is picking up on the back end to dig in, or side pulling really hard, then yeah, I think you definitely need them on there. But if I was just gonna go hook up and go tow a truck, I wouldn't hook those up. And I know that because many times I haven't. So this is all back 100%, good to go. No more check engine lights, no more troubles. We got our wrecker back. That still looks like that. Jeep still looks awesome. I gotta get the decals on it. This thing is all 100% until we get to here, and then that part's got a little issue we're gonna take care of Monday morning. And then this is back ready to go. Little Jeep's got its top back on for the winter. I left everything opened up because the floor is a little damp from some rain we had. Let it dry out. The car's filthy dirty because I took it wheeling. Yeah, other than the one brake on the back of that trailer, we're actually getting dialed back in pretty good, and everything's back to ready to roll, which I am very happy with, to get back to that point of after the last, I would say, month that I have had. You want to talk about kicking the nuts after kicking the nuts after kicking the nuts. It just kept on coming. So to have everything kind of getting dialed back in, I'm pretty happy with that. And it's nice to see things turning around and heading the other way. Like I said, after the last month of just, what are we doing? Yeah, so even though my trailer is missing a couple wheels, I am happy with where everything's at right now, which is a nice change of pace. That's all fine because we got a solid plan for that, and it's not screwing me up for any job, so that's fine. Rusty's happy, which is what really matters. We got a lot accomplished today. A lot of projects ticked off the list. So the girls are in town. Some family's in town, so they're out there with them. I am going to clean up my mess, clean up myself, head to town to join them, and go enjoy the evening. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully everything's going good for you too, and we'll see you next time. And it looks like the cat's happy the Zacklift's back in action too. Oh, she's trying to hunt birds. Gotta get that vantage point.